So, Brian, it's a very interesting time to be a Tesla investor.
Hmm.
I've never seen so much drama, and I've been following it pretty closely for about 5 years when I've written these two books about Tesla. And I don't think we've ever seen quite this much drama in such a short time. So, the basic thing is that everybody is shocked and amazed that Elon Musk has changed the direction of the company. This is brand new to everybody out there that isn't paying attention. He said it a year ago. Do you remember?
Um, no, I don't remember what he
He
said a year
said, he
ago.
said, he said, look, we're now an AI company specializing in robotics.
Right,
That's
right.
a change. That was a dramatic change from being an automobile manufacturer. It's an AI company specializing in robotics. Well, then last week he said, look, we're almost there on the
Hmm.
Robotaxi, on the FSD. So between now and August 8th, we're going to go balls to the walls in order to
Hmm.
make sure that we are out there and ready to go with Robotaxi. Did you know that balls to the walls is an aeronautic term?
Yes, I've been hearing a lot. Yeah,
I
I
had no
before. Yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah. I didn't know about it specifically. Of course, heard it before, but I didn't understand it was referring to pushing your steering forward. Your with the balls on the top of
of
your
your
controls.
of
Yeah.
your controls. So I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, so where we're going now, between now and August 8th, that's the date that we're going to unveil, whatever that means,
Hmm.
Robotaxi. It might mean hardware, it might be software, it might mean an app, or it might mean all three. But we're going full out.
Hmm.
Now, does that mean that everything else stops? Does that mean we just forget about energy storage? We forget about cars? We forget about the new Cybertruck? We forget about the Juniper that's going to be coming up on the Model Y when they do the revamp like they did the Model 3? Does that mean we forget about Dojo? Does that mean we forget about Optimus? Uh,
No, well, clearly we don't forget about that. But we do have earnings coming up on Wednesday, and the news has been a drumbeat of relatively bad news. Like we've had lower numbers in Q1, and then we've had not so great numbers from Europe that just came out. That is ammunition for the Tesla Q and those other people that things are a problem. That the sales are flat to a little down relative to before. So, and then we're going to get whatever the margin financial impact released on the on Wednesday.
right.
So those things are not great. But I do think that so we've had all this bad news. So you could also view it as maximum negativity, and then any good news can start turning these things around. So just saying, okay, we have a plan that now I think they would have to give some level of plan. A question of how much they'll reveal. But Q1, sorry, end of Q4, last earnings call, they said, okay, we can't give a plan other than if interest rates are high, then the sales will be very difficult, and interest rates go low, then sales will be very good. We now know interest rates are not going to improve, barring I want
Shock.
to say some a shock and a mirror. But think of a shock that causes that kind of turnaround would not be positive. Because basically, the last time that happened was we had a pandemic,
Right.
and then things were crashing, and then suddenly they had to stimulate the economy. So something like that would be Middle East war goes regional or whatever, and then supply chains get messed up, and then they got to stimulate the economy. So the situations where there's suddenly U-turn and start stimulating the economy is generally something horrible has happened.
Right. Yes,
Um,
that would be the reason this year for interest rates to come down more than we think they're going to, which right now might be one or two cuts of a 0.25%. And quite frankly, this guy is predicting right now no cuts this year.
right.
Yes, inflation could soften even more as we get through the rest of the year, and that could mean that we get one cut. But
Mm.
the most likely cut that most people are thinking about would be that we actually start to see some kind of slowdown in the economy, whether that's caused by an external event like the Middle East situation, or whether it's just caused by the fact that the economy is ready to slow down.
Right.
But either way, that's not going to be something that's going to help sales of Tesla vehicles.
It's a nuance of that, though. Canada was cutting interest rates.
Right.
Other Europe could, so it's not just the Fed doing it, like other countries could lead in the
Right.
cuts.
Yes.
China could stimulate
Right.
things there.
We're already stimulated. Yes.
Right. But then it would, you know, those places are weaker, so then they're trying to support them stuff. But it's not like a US led global round of cutting, right?
Right.
Because they can only do so much. What's
So
your thinking about that?
okay, so let me start with one premise, and this premise seems to have people when I've talked about this on my channel. If Robotaxi is really real on August 8th, I mean, we are driving our cars now and we know we're this close. I've been asking people recently, how many of your last 10 drives could have been done without you in the car and the car would have gotten to the destination? Yeah, you might have hit the accelerator a couple of times because you were impatient, but how many times did you have to intervene because you were positive there was going to be a safety problem? And most people are saying probably half of their drives right now, a robotaxi could have done it with nobody in the driver's seat. So we're already there right now. We're 4 months away, and the data is coming in a billion miles every 6 weeks or whatever. So the question I have for everybody that's wondering about the value of the Tesla stock right now is if Robotaxi is really real and the announcement on the 8th is really strong, like, okay, starting tomorrow, you can turn your car into a Robotaxi. What do you think? Do you think anybody will care how many Tesla vehicles are sold? Nobody will care. First of all, they'll be selling every car they can possibly make at that point because people will want them as a business investment or they'll want them because they want to be able to have a car that has a chauffeur in it. So that won't be an issue anymore. But even if it was an issue, just the value of the company becomes a completely different thing. It becomes it's another planet by comparison. Or the other one would be if an Optimus comes out of the box in February or March, and you open the box and Optimus gets out of it by himself, puts on his arms and his legs, and starts doing real work. And we find out what the cost is and what the sell price is and how many they're going to make next year. Do you think anybody will even care about Robotaxi anymore? They won't even care about that because the TAM and the potential on Optimus is uncharted territory. There's nothing that's ever been even remotely close to the
Mhm.
potential. So, but let's bring it all back. Let's bring it all back to today. Let's bring it all back to next Wednesday because people are concerned. The stock is down to 150. Where is it going to go to 107? Is it going to even break 100? What's going to happen as these numbers come out next week? Number one, you should follow AJ. Everybody that's not following AJ, I think it's AJOH maybe on X. I'm
Mhm.
not sure, but I think that's what it is. Anyway, AJ is a very good analyst, and he's very good at putting the numbers together. He's predicting 57 cents next week, which wouldn't be bad. I think your stock's going to go up if it's 57 cents. Now, there are going to be other things that happen in the call, but if it's 57 cents and he's right, I think the stock goes up. Other people are down around 27 cents. And I think the stock probably might have a small hit if it's really 27 cents again, unless the news is good. What could the news be on Wednesday that would really change everything?
Um, Having a real plan and guidance
On
that
what
is
though? On
decent.
what? What specifically?
I would say margin and volume. If
Margin
they
of
give
volume
us,
would be good, but what does the stock market want to hear right now? They want to hear that the Gen 2 has not been delayed or
right,
scrapped.
right,
Okay.
they're not delayed to scrap.
So
Yeah.
a drivable regular consumer version of the Gen 2 has not been delayed or scrapped. Or if it's delayed, it's delayed a month or it's made delayed 2 months.
Mm.
Nobody care about that. But it's fully going, nothing's changed. That's what they want to hear. Now, so pretty much even at 27 cents, I think if we get that news, the stock goes
Mm.
up on Wednesday. Now, if the opposite happens and Elon goes truly all in on Robotaxi and says, Gen 3 is probably now a 2026 ramp or something like that, or, we're going to do this first and then we'll figure out Gen 3.
Mm.
That's going to be a little trickier because a couple of pundits have said that might be a different investor
Mhm.
So the person who's buying a factory that makes
Mhm.
cars might not be the same person that's investing in an AI company that makes robots. And so you
Mhm.
might have a shift of investment philosophies and who it is that's actually buying. The person
Mhm.
that's buying the AI company has a longer horizon on his, maybe a year, 2, 3, 5 years that they're willing to wait. Whereas the person that's buying a manufacturing company, they want it next quarter.
Mhm.
So those
Okay.
are some of the things. Now let's go talk about the key that everybody, I think, is going to be thinking that they want to
Mhm.
hear. Okay, which
Right.
is how many cars are we going to sell this year?
Mhm. Right.
All right, so let's take it factory by factory. Shanghai,
Mhm.
pretty much maxed out at 1 million a year. Could they do 1,000,001? Could they do 1,000,002? Maybe. They didn't quite ship 1 million last year. I think it was under 900,000. Could they get to 1 million this year? Probably. But what if they just shipped the same amount as last year, just 900,000, 889, whatever the number was exactly? I have a hard time thinking that they're going to go under that. It's just really
Mhm.
hard that they're going to go under that. They've just opened Australia a year and a half ago. They've just now opened Chile. They've just not that Japan hardly sells any cars, so they got plenty of opportunity to sell a lot more cars in Japan. South Korea
Mhm.
is doing amazing. They're open. They've just opened up 2 or 3 of the Southeast Asian countries. So
Mhm.
I think that and India, well, India
Mhm.
probably won't be taking the Chinese cars. But anyway, so you've got all these new markets. If
Mhm.
there's some kind of shrinkage in the actual Chinese market, these new markets should be able to pick that up.
Mhm.
They also sometimes ship some of the cars that are made in China go to Great Britain, of course, on the right-hand drive, and then also to Canada because sometimes it just makes better sense to ship Canada from the Chinese factories. So there's
Mhm.
all these other markets that can suck up a little bit of downward pressure in China. They've also just introduced a 0% interest rate offer in China. I expect that to create some increase.
Mhm.
So I'm not worried. I don't think we should be too worried that they go negative in China.
Mhm. Right.
Let's look at Europe. Europe last year they had a fine year, but it wasn't a phenomenal year. And they have a
Mhm.
brand new vehicle. They have a brand new Model 3 Plus, and the performance is coming out in a week or two, I think, because they're already seeing some of these on ships. And the performance is over 500 horsepower.
Mhm.
And I'm thinking about my Volvo that I no longer have, which was 300 horsepower and how fast it was. And this 500
Mhm.
horsepower in this vehicle, oh my goodness. Anyway, that's another subject for another day. But I think there's no reason that Europe will see any shrinkage this year. I think they'll do okay. They've also
Mhm.
just introduced the 0% interest rate in Germany.
Mhm.
So they're looking market by market. Last year it was Spain that they did the 0% interest rate. This year it's Germany. So they're looking, environment by environment. What do they need to do to make sure that they stay going, hopefully up, but at least even. They
Mhm.
do have extra capacity in Berlin that they could start to ramp up again. And maybe we'll do better in Europe. Maybe we'll do better in China, but somewhere in that range. Okay, what does that leave? That leaves the big market. That leaves the United States.
Mhm.
Well, okay. Basically, the United States is divided up this way: California and everything else. I mean, it's really true.
Mhm.
California, the fourth or fifth largest economy in the world, is running over 20% BEVs, new sales. Over 17%, I think, is Tesla. 17%
Mhm.
of all cars sold in California right now are Tesla. The rest of the country, 2%, 4%, 6%, nowhere, anywhere close to that 17% in California. So there's a massive potential for increase across the United States. And
Mhm.
there's also a massive potential to increase the quantities that they're selling out of Austin. And if necessary, again, he's got these other countries that the slightly more potential out of the Berlin and Shanghai plant. So I think that you can chew gum and walk at the same time. And I
Mhm.
think that Elon is already showing it. you're already seeing increased advertising. You're already seeing a $2,999 down, $299 a month lease plan on a Model 3.
Mhm.
Compare that to any other car. You
Mhm.
can't buy you can't get a lease for any other car anywhere close to as cool as a Model 3 for $299 a month with $3,000 down.
Mhm.
You probably will see some interest rate buying down here too, maybe a 2% deal instead of a 0 deal.
Mhm.
And you'll see more and more promotion and opportunity. But you've got the Model 3 Plus that has just come out here and
Mhm.
the performance in a couple of weeks too. You got the
Mhm.
Cybertruck going crazy and people loving it and talking about how amazing it is, and the Model 3, how amazing it is. So why couldn't we add 300,000 sales in just the United States? That would be a fairly small get. So 1.8 million
So,
next year, 1.9, 2.0,
mm.
oh, 2.1. So
Mm.
instead of 1.8 just equaling last year, I'm saying 2.1.
So what would be the guidance they would give? Like, do they give guidance and do they say it's 1.8, 1.9? And then they actually target to 2.1, right? So do they say that number? Like, what would be holding them back? Because clearly Dan Ives, other investors want to hear them say the number, right?
Me
Something
too.
that they're going to say, we're going to put that out there, a stake in the ground. The potential you describe is there. If they work hard, if things happen, and then, of course, if FSD happens, then that boosts sales, that makes it easier, right?
Right.
But based on where they stand now,
Mhm.
what are they willing to say? Because that goes to the thing. Like, even if that's true,
Yes.
if they don't say it, then that's a problem, right?
Yeah, and especially because Elon Musk they complain a lot about his promises. They complain a lot about his estimates of when things are going to happen. He famously gets everything done just late, but his numbers on cars, he's
Mhm.
been so accurate, it is uncanny.
Right.
So I think if he did come out, first of all, he's probably only going to make a statement about numbers if he's really confident. And I
Right.
think that will also be true as how the street reads it.
Mhm.
And so if he does come up with a number, then I think we can take it to the bank. And like last
Mhm.
year, it would probably be a range.
Mhm.
So maybe it's 1.9 to 2.1. That wouldn't, be uh, you can get that just by selling the 100,000 Cybertrucks and not
And
increasing.
keeping everything flat. Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So anyway, I'd love it. I hope it happens. If I could, throw up a quarter as easy as tell you what's going to happen because
Mhm.
nobody expected him not to give a number last time. And now everybody's kind of like on the fence. They don't know whether he's going to give a number or not, but it would certainly help the stock. If he said 1.9 to 2.1, yeah, I think the stock could go up the next day. Yeah. Yeah.
Right. If he says 1.8, because okay, I can definitely hit 1.8.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get to 2,
Maybe,
right?
maybe neutral.
Neutral.
If he
Okay.
said 1.8 to 2, now if he says 1.8 to 2, that could
But
move it.
if he just says 1.8 and maybe some upside, I'm not gonna say how much,
Yeah. Yeah.
or but we definitely get 1.8.
Yeah.
If he says 1.7 for sure, then probably
Yeah,
more.
that would not be good. That would not be
That may not be good.
unless the other part that you mentioned a minute ago, the other part that is talked about a lot less is that he looks like he's shoring up margins.
Mhm. Yeah.
He's just taken 14,000 people off the payroll.
Right.
We have a price increase of $1,000 at the 1st of April. That has not been pulled back. We've got
Mhm.
big price increases on the inventory cars across the United States.
Mhm.
Inventories are dropping radically. So
Mhm.
maybe he's starting to see some kind of take rate that people are not really aware of yet.
Mhm.
Because if they're sucking up these cars, and he's not having to drop prices, and you get those margins up a point or two, that would
So
really
the
be.
way I look at the reduction in force of about 14,000 people, um, if it was $70,000 per person because it's global, so some people out in
Right.
China, the places may have lost their job, that'd be about $1 billion.
Mhm.
So that'd be 4% over a full year.
Right.
But you wouldn't see that Q2
Right.
because you'd have to give severance,
Right.
right? So Q2 is neutral on that. So then you have half a year of the cut.
Hmm.
So that'd be 2% this year that
Hmm.
you would see,
Hmm.
potentially up to 3%, depending on how deep the cuts were. We don't know exactly, right? So 2 to 3%
Hmm.
would be the boost in margin if you got 500, because the 1 point of margin is about
Some
$250
margin.
million.
Oh, yeah. So some of this was factory workers. So some of it would be margin, some of it would be an overhead.
Right, right. So profit margin, net income,
Overall, yeah,
overall, you'd see
right.
this
About
500 to $750 million benefit in the second half
right,
of the year,
right,
right? So that would be, this 2% level.
right.
So the thing is, they should have a lot more clarity around this thing of the both the worst case and some of the better case things. They're seeing take rates and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So them having the confidence to say, here's what's looking like. And um, if we pad it a little to say, okay, uncertainty,
Hmm.
right? They can give a pretty confident number, right?
Right.
Whether they choose to do it
That's it.
because of whatever reason, because the range is too big, I don't know why they would, again, hold back, especially because you're like, you're already, 4 months into the year. There's only 8 more months left. You
Right,
you have history of 4 months.
right,
So now, at some point you can say, obviously in Q3, you can say, okay, here's what I think Q4 is going to be, and thus we have our annual number. That's like waiting that long seems weird, right? Because you don't have to be that certain because nothing, the range of what can happen. So uh, why wouldn't they give the number? It's like, and yeah, go ahead on that.
So I don't know whether they will or won't. They have in the past. They've given margin estimates as well. So they might do that. Also, there's another thing that a lot of people are forgetting about. Rob Mauer always used to say, I don't care how many they ship. I care
Mhm.
how many they produce.
Right.
38,000, let's call it rounded off. There's 40,000 vehicles that didn't make it into customers' hands at the end of the quarter, but
Mhm.
there's no inventory sitting in the nobody's saying, oh, there's a bunch of cars sitting on the lot over in some port in Europe. You know,
Yeah.
no, the cars were on ships on their way to destinations. And
Mhm.
those 38,000 are going to be part of the numbers for the second quarter. Nobody's
Right.
got that. Nobody's got that in their plan. I guarantee you. I've looked at the
Right.
plans and nobody's talking about that 38,000. So
Mhm.
all of a sudden you might be looking at a $510,000 quarter. That would make a big difference to quarter two.
Right. So, but I think Troy Teslake had not doesn't have a good that good a number
No,
for Q2. So, and he
Troy,
and he tracked the inventory.
Troy missed it by a lot on this last one.
Right. Right. So, anyway, so basically, we're saying that coming in at 1.8 is reasonable, coming in with decent margins reasonable. Also, because of the $99 a month FSD,
Mhm.
that if you that's like $1,200 per year. So if you get 25% take rate, that'd be
A
another
lot.
400,000. Out of the people who haven't bought, maybe 500,000. So that could be as much as 500, $600 million, another 2%, but that would be highly profitable margin coming in that they could also announce. Like if they get over 100,000, 200,000 of those things taken beyond
Right,
the rate that had before, then that would be
right.
highly positive if they told anyone.
Yes, yes.
So that goes to if you get that, why would you keep it yourself? One, it seems like it would be material that it would you would have to reveal, hey, we moved a bunch of these things, right?
Yeah, okay. Be careful with that materiality issue. Okay.
Yeah.
So companies can hold back on what could be seen as material for competitive reasons.
Mhm.
So we get this all the time. Well, how come they didn't tell us anything about this? So
Right.
the materiality usually is on the negative side, where
Mhm.
if you don't give materially negative information that could impact the stockholder, but on the positive side, it would be very unusual to be called out because you didn't give some
Positive news.
really good news.
Okay. Okay. So what else does it not happen next week, Wednesday?
So energy, everybody's going to be concerned about energy. How much of an increase did we have in deployments?
Mhm.
How much of an increase did we have in and how the bookkeeping worked? Are we looking at, real profits hitting the bottom line that we can look at, and also the notes, which will come out later on the Q, what do they call that? The Q10 or something? I forget what that's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Q10. Anyway, we'll see the notes at some point that'll explain a little more, maybe, and we'll get some more knowledge on that. Plus, we've got Shanghai, the Shanghai Mega Factory, the
Mhm.
the Mega Pack Factory that is now announced, specifically and definitely beginning
Construction May
construction in May, and
and delivering Q1 next year.
right, delivery next year. And that's certainly a reasonable expectation. We're also wondering, maybe it'd be lovely if they give us a little more flavor on the mega factory here in California, because it seems like they should be shipping a lot more.
Right.
What is holding them up from getting to fully produced? Maybe somebody will ask that question. I'm 100% sure somebody will ask about 4680.
Mhm.
Where are they on 4680?
Mhm.
Because you and I know, and it'll never really matter. It's a darn shame
Mhm.
because if FSD happens, nobody will care about 4680 either.
Mhm.
But 4680 itself is a game changer if they get it
Right.
up to full production in the United
Mhm.
States and then start, putting it in Berlin, putting it in Shanghai, putting it in Reno. It is a
Mhm.
game changer. And that would be another huge thing if they tell us, okay, here's where we are, and we can now tell you, we can now project, because they've
Mhm.
projected a lot of times what they thought 4680 would do. We can now project we will be fully ramped by, give me a date.
So the fact that Drew Baglino left
Yes.
and he was the 4680 megapack
Right.
he was
Right.
the lead on that,
Right.
right? So is that negative for that? Is that he didn't
Right. So
like
there's three possibilities.
Mhm.
Drew Baglino has $98 million at least in the bank. And so he wanted to put his feet up and go be with his family. But he's a really, really good guy. And he would not have left them in a lurch.
Mhm.
So if it was his decision 100%, not a chance, I don't think.
Right.
Number two, he was laid off, but
Mhm.
nobody said laid off. It was part of this overall restructuring. Drew, your position is not going to be that much fun anymore. Because why would that be? Oh, because it's done. All we're doing at this point is finishing up. We just have to keep doing what we're doing, and the mega factories will be open and running, and the 4680 will be doing just fine. So, Drew, thank you very much. You've done great. You deserve a rest.
Mhm.
You see any other possible ways that is? Oh, I know, third one. Drew, you screwed up. What's going on? Your mega factories aren't opening as fast as we thought they should. And 4680 is a year behind. You're out of here, dude, but we'll call it that you're just retiring.
Mhm.
So that's a
Right.
possibility, in which
Right.
case maybe we'll get some color on who's
Mhm.
taking over that position and how that's going to look.
Right. It seemed like they could have made more urgent decisions last year, right? Where okay, things are ramping slowly, but um, if they had just said, okay, we're going to still force more things out. We're going to take wet electrode, done something,
Right.
and just said make the volume numbers happen.
Mhm.
The batteries be okay, and then we do that. They did not make those choices.
No. They
So
specifically said they were doing the opposite.
they specifically said they're doing the opposite,
Right.
right? So Elon was involved in that decision to say, hey, we're going to do the opposite,
Right.
right? So the fact that they haven't ramped as hard as they could have, this was the plan for the last year or two, right? So there's no surprise there. They're trying to make the dry cathode process work. They had to take some wet electrode components from some Chinese makers.
Mhm.
Um, but again, that's the scientists there have and the engineers have to master whatever dry cathode process there is.
Right.
They have done some. I'm based on the reports that we've seen, they
Mhm.
have done some of the dry cathode things. So it seems like it's not like anything is a surprise. I can't see where Drew did or failed to do anything that would be like Elon would know. This is a major important thing. I know what's going to happen. We're all there making the same decision anyway. So it's not like, okay, that's your decision, Drew. You didn't do it, right? And then, it's also more of a Elon level thing. Like if we have to turn some dial to increase the production, there's options they could do there, but it's like, so I don't see that being the case. The other thing would be then, so that leaves the other two options. So no major screw up, but it's something where either it's mostly done, so he doesn't leave the team in a lurch, and now they continue to ramp. It's also that he has been there 18 years. It's been, you know,
Grueling, grueling.
grueling stuff. Yeah.
And he has young kids
So
still. Yeah.
yeah. So okay. So no
Now,
bad
let me let
surprises.
me let me
Yeah. Go
just
ahead.
address Lathrop really quickly. I
Yeah.
have been thinking about Lathrop so hard. I know
Mhm.
you and I were way at the forefront on Lathrop.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that this is a supply chain problem on the other side.
Mhm.
I think the reason it's not, I think it could ramp tomorrow. I think it could be making as many as they want tomorrow. I think that maybe they knew it going in, maybe they didn't know it going in, but they're just not able to get these permits, not able to get these, what do you want to call it? Uh, construction done. They
Utility connections
can't
from
get hooked up
PG&E.
to the utilities. They're having trouble buying transformers. I mean, all the things that we've been hearing about with regard to the grid. I think they got the orders. They showed us the orders. They had 2-year
Mhm.
backlog, and I think there's a limited number. So, having said that, did anybody sit there and go, "How can we maybe start putting more of these into our mega uh, charging facilities, our supercharger facilities? Should we be opening up? I know they are going to open up. I just read it yesterday. They are further along now on setting it up for the semi
Mhm.
for those charging facilities now. I'm sure they're going to be putting in mega chargers in those.
Mhm.
But what about factories? What about government? I mean, other kinds of government. But again, I guess maybe the transformer thing could be affecting those as well.
So for me, so there's those delays, those issues of third parties. The thing is, I see them at some point needing to um, provide a lot of megapacks and solar for AI data centers. So
Yeah,
the AI data center is something that I've projected forward,
right,
and if you put 100,000, which is the current state of the art number of H100s,
right,
into one factory, you bring down the grid in the United States. You have to put them
right,
in multiple locations, which
right.
is not as good for AI. So if I want to make a bigger facility and have more energy available, then having a factory, an AI data center with the grid connection plus 5,000 megapacks, right?
Right.
5,000 megapacks would be giving an extra, fairly high volume of energy, let me scale up my data center by, five,
Mhm.
10 times or something like
Right,
that. So other AI companies, OpenAI, Microsoft, they may need that kind of solution as well.
right, right.
All of them are still talking about making it in the United States. They're not talking about, yes, China has better grid, but they can't put their AI data center in China,
No,
right? So that means the only place you can put them is the United States, because one, you want your developer and all those people there, geopolitical other reasons why you'd have to do that.
sure.
So then there would be this AI demand coming, and the first one might be for XAI,
Mhm.
where XAI is raising $4 billion, $3 billion for chips, $1 billion for power, something like that, another thing like that. So the and then Tesla themselves would do that. So being their own customer, just like SpaceX is their own company for
Right,
Starlink,
right.
that could change the sales aspect of Megapacks.
Yeah.
That could start happening like next year.
Right. So I'd love
Or
to, so I'd love
yeah,
to get some color on that. I think that's the main thing. I'm just saying that's what
yeah.
I'm speculating, but maybe just like they gave color on cars, they said, hey, look, interest rates. They said, hey, look, whatever. These are the reasons we think they'll be better or worse than we thought. Well, do the same thing on Megapack. It's a big deal now. Let us know what, is it being slowed up by the permitting and the grid, or are they still having trouble with the ramp? What's going on there? I think that would be valuable information to know.
But for this earnings call,
Right,
they already given us a volume number. It
right,
was 4 GWh. So a little bit better, but not great.
right,
Could be production again. The production versus the actual
right,
revenue recognition can be
right,
different.
right,
So they haven't, other than they put it into the 10Q or whatever like that,
right,
they haven't come out and said it in the freaking call,
right.
right? So the revenue recognition could be better than the volume number.
Right.
So, but how much better could it be? $200 million? It could be a nice small surprise, but not a super great one.
Right, right.
Right. So what else are we looking at? So we talk about that. FSD, do they reveal, do they not? They should be giving more stuff, particularly if they are an AI robotics company. They say that, I think if they say stuff around Tesla bot, even if we could read it as super positive, I don't see the street reacting to Tesla bots going great.
Well, again, yes, they could. They
Mhm.
could they could give us a tour of the factory and show that they've got 300 of them out there working.
Okay.
And I think that would open eyeballs. But short of that, no, I don't think there's much, unless you're going to really do the entire reveal,
Mhm.
or something so crazy as, literally taking a fly through the factory and
Mhm.
showing lots of Optimus working.
Mhm.
Optimi, I'm sorry. We were the ones. It was my channel that
Mhm.
said we would call them Optimi. We had that debate. And we decided. I don't know whether anybody paid attention,
Mhm.
but we did that. That's maybe our only claim to fame. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, I think those are the main things. I would love to have some clarification on Optimus, but I think that I have a sense that they might have decided to kind of go into
Quiet mode.
the
Yeah,
quiet.
because they were saying they didn't want to put any videos out there because Chinese companies were going frame by frame and copying it,
Yeah, yeah,
right? And also, there's no positive to do it because not like the street, even if you did show them,
yeah.
the Gary Blacks of the world are still not going to get it. They can't even get FSD
Right,
when we could be like months from a
right,
robotaxi. They're
right,
still like in denial about that. So it's kind of like they may only recognize robotaxi when you actually have 10,000, 100,000 on the street, which could be, they can do that with Model 3s,
right,
use Model 3s that they
right.
have on hand,
Yes.
right?
Or just you're in mine.
And yours and mine. Yeah, yeah. So they could do that, right? So that's the earnings call. So then the June 13th vote. So analysis is that they have enough votes. They only need to get a simple majority, right?
No,
So that
70%.
what?
70%.
Really? I heard that they only needed to have a simple majority to
Boy,
approve.
Larry Goldberg just said 70%, but I'll double check all that and maybe we'll put
Because
it.
I thought the Boom Rom was saying simple
50%.
majority.
Oh, okay.
The simple majority did it, and the four major a single majority of at the 62%, 70% level, which is what's traditionally have been voting of the retail investor,
I got you.
and then a significant number of the major shareholders plus Elon's count for this.
Sure, I'm sure Ron Barron will vote with.
Ron Barron will vote for it. Larry Ellison,
Yeah.
Koguan,
Right.
So anyway, so they should get to that number is
That's
what
fine.
I'm
Yeah.
what
I'm
we're
not.
hearing.
I'm not worried about it.
Right. So I think whatever that number is, they wouldn't put it to a vote if they didn't know they had the votes. So they got that. So that means it moves to Texas, and then Elon's old package gets put back in.
Right.
But then that's not the new package. That's a separate
Right.
thing for the new package.
Right.
So, but settling that old package thing and moving to Texas, that should be positive,
Should be.
right? It
Yeah.
should be positive because
Yeah.
one, Elon can then start talking happy talk again because
Right.
then, his thing is there. He'd be even more happy if he gets the new package in, right?
Yeah.
So then the
So,
question,
so it was interesting that they didn't include that in this particular meeting, but I suppose I'm sure that Elon's 100% on board on the fact that that didn't happen.
mm,
What will that mean in terms of a special meeting?
mm,
Just to do that, I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm guessing that as much as I say that they can chew gum and walk at the same time, that their plate is going to be super full during this next just under 4 months getting to the
mm,
August date. And that's going to
yeah,
be, again, the concentration, but not the whole banana.
concentrate about the whole banana.
It's going to be the concentration of what the company's going to be doing, but it's
I
not
see.
the
That's it.
only thing they're going to be
Right,
doing.
right, right. Yeah, they're not paying the company. They have other stuff going. Right,
Yeah,
right,
they're not betting the company. Everyone's like,
right,
oh, they're betting the company. What are you talking about? They got $30 billion in the bank. You can't bet.
right,
How do you bet a company that's got 30? Yeah, okay.
right,
Whatever.
right. So I think they have the chips. I'm when they celebrate spiking the ball, like
Yes,
people saw the 100 exaflops in
yes,
October 2024,
yes.
but they have like a if Elon said we have over 30,000 H100 equivalents, that's 120 exaflops,
Right.
right? So 2 plus 2, like I heard what he said there,
Yeah.
but he needs to say we have 120, 200 exaflops. Like I don't know why he doesn't say that for people who don't get it, right? Who don't say, you just said it. Why don't you say it clearer?
Yeah. And I,
Or,
and I should look this up and find out more about it. But there's also right now we're in the quiet period.
yeah.
And so he's not allowed to say certain things, but I don't know exactly what he's limited on.
Mm.
Can he make an absolute factual statement in the quiet period? I don't know. I'm not sure.
Because they toss out the, sell 1 million cars, they
Right,
toss out the little thing.
right,
This seems the same thing. We got the chips, we
right.
have 120 exaflops. It seems like
Yeah,
an X post that would say, "Yay, over 100 exaflops." They said not compute limited,
right,
right? But the
right.
thing is, like, if you toss in the extra number for the people who want to be spoon fed,
Yeah,
right? And the thing is also the volume of NVIDIA chips, like the whole like TSMC announced a little bit of a pause in their thing. NVIDIA says 6 weeks on their shipment delays, something like that. So it seems like uh, the frenzy of buying has paused.
right,
My feeling is, you get how many H100s you want, and then you get the B200s, right? Because you don't want to like overload on these because they're going to get the next one, right?
right,
So I
right,
see that they're between two waves of growth, but for them it's like a 3 month little pause,
right,
right?
right.
So then they go back up to the next one. That's how I see that. But then it also means that if you're willing to say, yeah, I'm willing to take 100,000 of these H100s, and they'll also get 50,000, 100,000 of the B100, then you get them. And then
Yeah, yeah,
for Tesla, that means 400 exaflops of this, 800 exaflops of that, and then I keep upgrading and going. You're on this cycle in order to compete
right,
on these things.
right,
Um, for the far future, of course, not far future, but for later this year, when they have Grok 3 and XAI, which will be a GPT-5 class, GPT 4.5 class system, because Grok 2 should be slightly ahead of GPT 4 and coming out in May. That means you can start popping the Grok, a really powerful Grok, into um, Tesla cars, other applications and
yeah.
stuff.
And I kind of dropped the ball on this on my own channel. You remind me. I got to pick that ball up again. Is putting Grok in the car is going to be a selling feature. Just that alone.
Right.
The Grok in the car is fun. Grok is fun. It's
Mm,
like, having the whoopee cushions in the car and all the and the fire but actually better than any of those because you're
mm,
using it every darn day. And it brings
mm,
back for us baby boomers, it brings back, memories of some TV program.
mm.
It wasn't very good, but it was at least interesting.
Well,
Uh,
why don't we save that for the next video, which we'll do and have for your channel and for mine,
okay.
Grok in the car.
Rock in the
So,
car. There we go.
okay.
Sounds like a good one. Hey, it's been fun.
Okay. Thank you.